She opened her eyes, saw the ring, and knew her life had gone off the rails. Then Claire told her to check her phone. This is an original fictional story. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or to actual events is purely coincidental. For a full 10 seconds after Claire said, "Your side of the closet is the one on the left," Iris seriously considered throwing the bottle of aspirin at her. Not because Claire was wrong. Because Claire was calm. Hangover calm. Married calm. Horribly elegant, coffee in hand, blouse sleeves rolled. Yes, obviously my wife lives here now calm. Iris hated it. Worse, some deeply traitorous part of her admired it. She planted both hands on the kitchen island and leaned forward as if the marble itself might offer legal guidance. This is not normal. Claire took another measured sip of coffee. That observation continues to be accurate. You don't get to be smug. I'm not smug. You're doing the rich version of smug. Claire's brow lifted. And what version is that? The version with excellent coffee and zero visible suffering. Claire set down her mug. I took aspirin before bed. You attacked tequila like it had insulted your bloodline. Iris straightened. I did not attack tequila. Claire looked at her for one long second. Then with exquisite politeness, she said, I have video evidence of many things, Iris. Choose wisely. Iris pointed at her. You are enjoying this. A little. A lot. Claire's mouth curved. A lot. Iris groaned and dragged a hand down her face. The ring on her finger flashed again. Still there. Still real. Still deeply offensive. Claire's gaze dipped to it, then back to Iris. Her expression changed only slightly, but enough for Iris to catch it. Something gentler under the amusement. Something steadier. Sit, Claire said. Iris narrowed her eyes. Excuse me, you're hungover, dramatic, and one bad decision away from trying to leave in one sock. Claire nodded toward the stool at the island. Sit. Have coffee. Then panic with dignity. Iris should not have obeyed that tone. She obeyed that tone, which made it worse. She sat. Claire turned, moved around the kitchen with the kind of efficiency that suggested this was not a woman who tolerated chaotic mornings. Within 60 seconds, there was a cup in front of Iris, black coffee, exactly the way she'd take it before deciding whether sugar would be surrender. Iris stared at it. Then at Claire. How do you know how I drink coffee? Claire opened the fridge. I don't. You guessed. You were going to correct me if I was wrong. Iris wrapped both hands around the mug. I hate how effective that is. I know. No, you don't. Claire glanced over her shoulder, not missing a beat. You say that every 5 minutes. It's becoming part of your charm. Iris made a face at her and drank the coffee. It was perfect, which felt like sabotage. Claire set toast on a plate, added butter, set it in front of Iris too. Iris looked personally betrayed by the plate. This is how cults work. This is how breakfast works. No, this is how wealthy women trap people in tasteful kitchens. Claire leaned lightly against the opposite counter, all easy posture and unforgivable composure. You signed a contract in a chapel at 2 a.m, kissed me in front of witnesses, and told your phone my wife is ridiculously hot. Iris took a savage sip of coffee. That woman on the video is dead to me. Claire's eyes warmed. She seemed fun. She was reckless. She was honest. That landed harder than Iris wanted it to. She looked away first. Bad start. Iris hated bad starts. So she did what any sensible, deeply overwhelmed woman would do. She called Tori. The phone rang twice before Tori answered, too quickly, as if she had been waiting with her face 6 inches from the screen. Tell me you're still married. Iris closed her eyes. I'm hanging up. No. Don't you dare. I want details. There are no details. There is only catastrophe. On the other end, Tori cackled. You sound awful. I feel awful. Worth it. It was not worth it. Across the kitchen, Claire opened a drawer, took out a knife, and sliced fruit with the kind of controlled precision that made Iris feel weirdly threatened on behalf of the strawberries. Tori lowered her voice dramatically. Is she there? Iris glanced up. Claire met her eyes and, with zero shame, gave her a small, elegant wave. She's making breakfast, Iris muttered. Tori went silent for one stunned beat, then screamed. Iris yanked the phone away from her ear. Jesus! She's making you breakfast? Tori hissed. Oh, you're done for. I am not done for. I am actively seeking escape. From the penthouse? Apartment. Same thing if it has a view and emotional damage. Iris pinched the bridge of her nose. Tell me this can be undone. Tori hesitated just enough to be unhelpful. Then said, I mean, legally? I don't know. Maybe. But you did sign everything. And before you ask, yes, you were very coherent. Disturbingly coherent. At one point you corrected the officiant on the spelling of Quinn. Iris dropped her forehead lightly to the cool marble island. I want a new life. You have one, Tori said brightly. You're married. Iris made a strangled noise. Claire slid a plate a little closer to her without comment. Tori kept going, thoroughly enjoying herself. Also for the record, you were absolutely the one climbing all over her. I wasn't climbing. Iris. I was expressing enthusiasm. On her neck. Goodbye, Tori. Tori laughed. Call me later, Mrs. Donovan Quinn. Iris lifted her head so fast she nearly saw stars. I will have you legally eliminated. Love you too. The call ended. Iris stared at her phone as if it had betrayed her on a constitutional level. Then she slowly looked up and found Claire watching her over the kitchen counter, amused beyond reason. Don't, Iris warned. Claire's expression stayed innocent. I haven't said anything. You're thinking loudly. That sounds like something your gallery would put on a tote bag. Iris almost laughed. Almost. She caught herself just in time and glared harder. Claire folded her arms. You're staying here. Iris set down the mug. That was not a discussion. It can be one if it makes you feel better. The outcome will remain the same. Claire, you signed the clause. We are not going to keep quoting the contract all year, are we? Claire's face shifted, subtle but real. Less teasing now. More deliberate. No, she said. We aren't. That changed the air. Iris straightened a little. Claire went on, quieter this time. The contract got us here. Fine. It did its job. But I'm not interested in spending a year waving paper at you like I bought a hostage. I'm interested in whether we can actually do this without behaving like idiots. Iris blinked. That was not what she had expected. Claire moved around the island and stood across from her, one hand resting on the marble between them. So let's be clear, Claire said. You live here with me. You don't disappear for 3 days because you're overwhelmed. You don't let me hear about my own wife from your friends or from gossip. And I won't treat you like an accessory I won in a bar. Iris looked up sharply at that. Claire held her gaze. You're not decoration, Claire said. You're my wife. Which, granted, is ridiculous. But if we're doing ridiculous, we'll do it properly. There it was again. That word. Properly. Iris hated how much her pulse responded to that word in Claire's mouth. She folded her arms, defensive on instinct. And what exactly does properly mean to you? Claire's answer came without hesitation. Honesty. Not running. Sleeping under the same roof. Eating at the same table once in a while. Not pretending we're strangers when it's convenient. Her eyes flicked to the ring on Iris's hand and back up. And not treating this like some drunk prank we're both above. Iris let that sit. Because the truth was, that was exactly how she had planned to treat it. A prank. A disaster. A story she'd tell later with one hand over her face. But Claire was standing 3 feet away in morning light, speaking like this mattered. Not because of headlines. Not because of appearances. Because she had said yes and meant it. Dangerous woman. Iris lifted her chin. You forgot one thing. Claire waited. I'm still allowed to think this is insane. Claire's mouth curved. That's not only allowed. It's encouraged. That finally got a laugh out of Iris. A short one. Tired and unwilling and real. Claire looked absurdly pleased with herself for causing it. Iris noticed that and immediately regretted giving her the satisfaction. Don't look so triumphant, Iris muttered. I'm not triumphant. You are internally unbearable. That may be true. Iris pushed her coffee aside and stood. Fine. I need clothes. And my laptop. And approximately 12 more reasons not to panic. Claire nodded once. I'll take you. No. Claire blinked. No. I am not being escorted around like a scandalous pet. Claire's brows rose. That is a very strange image. You know what I mean. I do. And I'm still taking you. Iris planted one hand on her hip. Why? Claire's gaze stayed level. Because if I let you leave alone on the first morning, you'll vanish into your gallery and answer my messages in 6-hour intervals out of pure spite. Iris opened her mouth, then stopped. Because yes, that was exactly what she would do. Claire nodded as if receiving silent confirmation. Thank you for your honesty. I wasn't honest. You were transparent. That's worse. Claire glanced toward the hallway. You can wear something of mine until we stop by your place. Iris looked offended on principle. You think I'm fitting into your rich woman wardrobe? Claire's eyes moved, very slowly, over Iris from tangled hair to single sock, then back up again. I think I'm about to find out. 20 minutes later, Iris was standing in Claire Donovan's dressing room wearing one of Claire's white button-down shirts with the sleeves rolled and the collar open, dark trousers that fit a little too well, and an expression suggesting she might burn the entire apartment down. The closet itself was offensive. Not because it was huge. Because it was curated. Everything had space. Light. Intention. Shoes aligned like disciplined soldiers. Coats arranged by color. Jewelry hidden behind velvet panels. It looked less like storage and more like a quietly expensive museum dedicated to control. And on the left side, just as Claire had said, space had already been made. Empty hangers. An open drawer. A shelf cleared. Iris stood still for half a second. Damn her. Claire, standing near the doorway fastening her watch, noticed. I had Eva come by early, she said. Iris turned. Who's Eva? My house manager. Of course you have a house manager. Claire smiled. You say that like I keep dragons. This apartment is one dragon short of a dynasty. Claire laughed and stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to make the shirt on Iris's skin feel suddenly much more noticeable. It suits you, Claire said, glancing at the white button-down. Iris looked down at herself. It's aggressively expensive. It's cotton. It's threatening cotton. Claire's eyes dipped to the open collar, to the shape of Iris's throat, then came back up. You wear my clothes surprisingly well. There was no reason for that sentence to feel like a hand sliding under Iris's ribs. And yet, Iris tilted her head. Careful, Claire. Why? You're looking distracted. A pause. Then Claire smiled, slow, recognizing the theft of her own line. Good, she said softly. Then I'll recover quickly. Iris had to look away. Immediately. For health reasons. The drive to Iris's gallery should have been awkward. Instead, it was intolerably easy. Claire drove herself, which somehow made her even more annoying. No driver. No performance. Just Claire behind the wheel of a car that purred like money and obeyed like military training. Iris sat in the passenger seat trying very hard not to notice Claire's hands on the steering wheel. It was difficult. The city moved around them in cool gray-blue light, the late-morning traffic beginning to thicken. Claire drove with the same precise calm she did everything else. One hand at the wheel. One elbow relaxed. Eyes forward. No unnecessary movements. Iris watched her for 3 silent seconds and then said, You realize this looks exactly like the opening scene of a very specific kind of mistake. Claire didn't glance away from the road. Marriage. Kidnapping with excellent upholstery. Claire's mouth twitched. You're in no danger. That sounds ominous when rich people say it. I'll work on my tone. Iris rested her head lightly against the seat and looked out the window. I still can't believe you're serious. I know. I genuinely thought you'd laugh this off by breakfast. Claire turned onto the next street. That was your first mistake. Iris snorted. How many have there been? Claire pretended to think about it. Do you want the short list or the annotated edition? Iris pointed at her without turning fully from the window. See? That's why this is dangerous. You're funny just often enough to disarm people. Is that what happened to you? Iris looked at her then. Claire looked back for 1 second before returning her eyes to the road. Too late. Question asked. Question heard. Iris crossed one leg over the other and muttered. Maybe. Claire's smile stayed private after that. When they reached the gallery, Iris suddenly saw it through Claire's eyes and hated that too. Small, yes, but not shabby. Front windows washed in pale winter light. Clean white walls. Matte black lettering. Thoughtful curation visible even from the sidewalk. 3 paintings in the front room, 1 sculptural piece near the rear wall, and a window display built around texture instead of noise. It had taste. It had restraint. It had Iris all over it. Claire shut off the engine and looked at it for a moment. You did this. Iris unbuckled. Don't sound shocked. I sound impressed. Iris paused with her hand on the door. Then, because she couldn't help herself, said lightly, Good answer. Claire's eyes warmed. It was the true one. Inside, the bell above the door gave a soft chime. A young woman behind the desk looked up from her laptop and froze. June. 26, brilliant, overcaffeinated, painfully observant, and absolutely the wrong witness for this specific morning. Her eyes dropped first to Iris, then to the ring, then to Claire, then back to the ring. June slowly stood. I'm sorry, she said with dangerous politeness. Who is this? Iris inhaled once and prepared to lie. Claire, meanwhile, stepped forward with impossible ease and extended her hand. Claire Donovan. June stared at the hand for a beat before taking it. June Morales. Claire nodded. It's lovely to meet you. June looked at Iris. Is it? Iris closed her eyes briefly. June. June pointed, not even trying to be subtle. Why are you wearing a ring? Before Iris could answer, Claire said, calm as a verdict, because we got married last night. The silence that followed was so complete it practically acquired furniture. June blinked, looked at Iris, looked at Claire, looked back at Iris, then said, very softly, I knew yesterday felt unstable. June, Iris said through her teeth, go make coffee. I already made coffee. Make worse coffee then. June did not move. You got married? Yes. To her. Claire stood serenely beside a display pedestal and somehow made the question sound beneath her without being rude. Iris rubbed one hand over her face. Yes, June. June's eyes widened further. Like, legally? Claire answered that too. With witnesses. June put both palms flat on the desk as if steadying herself against the collapse of ordinary life. I was gone for one night. It was a very productive night, Claire said. Iris turned to glare at her. Claire looked back with no regret whatsoever. June, to her credit, recovered quickly enough to become suspicious instead of stunned. Are you okay? She asked Iris in a tone that clearly meant blink twice if she's dangerous. Iris opened her mouth. Claire reached for a brochure on the desk and began reading it like a woman who could wait all day. It should not have been hot. It absolutely was. I'm fine, Iris said. I need my bag from the office and a few things from the back. June leaned in. Do I call Tori? No. Lawyer? No. Priest? June. June lifted both hands. I'm adapting. Iris disappeared into the office before the conversation could get worse. Which, naturally, meant it got worse without her. In the back room, she found her canvas tote, laptop, notebook, charger, sketch roll, and enough dignity to fit in none of them. She shoved clothes from the emergency drawer into a bag too, her toothbrush, an old sweater, the scarf she liked, and then stopped dead when she caught herself packing like she actually lived elsewhere now. Or rather, like she didn't. Her hand tightened around the edge of the drawer. This was absurd. It was temporary. 1 year, said a vicious voice in her head. No. She refused to think in years on day one. When Iris came back out, June was standing beside Claire in front of a mixed media piece on the east wall, and for one dizzy second it looked like the beginning of a very strange buddy comedy. Claire had her hands loosely in her trouser pockets, studying the work without performing expertise. June stood beside her with narrowed eyes, as if trying to determine whether Claire Donovan was one of those wealthy women who bought art because it matched a sofa. Claire nodded once toward the piece. This one is good. June answered cautiously. It is. The layering is restrained. June blinked. Claire went on. A less disciplined hand would have ruined it by trying to explain itself. June looked at Iris across the room. Iris stood there with her bags and an extremely inconvenient feeling in her chest. Because that was not the comment of someone pretending. That was the comment of someone actually looking. June, now openly reassessing the situation, said, You collect? Claire's expression shifted. Some. She does, Iris said before she could stop herself. Claire turned toward her. You know that already? Iris regretted the sentence instantly. Lucky guess, she said. Claire's eyes lit with quiet amusement. June, seeing everything and enjoying too much of it, folded her arms. Do wives usually sound that annoyed by each other this early? Ask me in 6 months, Iris muttered. Claire glanced at her. Optimistic. June made a soft choking sound that was almost a laugh. Then Claire did something worse. She pointed toward the mixed media piece and said, "I'll take this one." Iris stared. Claire. Claire looked at her. What? That is not how you behave when you've accidentally married the gallery owner. I didn't accidentally marry you. June's eyes widened in delight. Iris pressed her lips together. Claire turned back to June. And I'd like the artist information. Full price. No wife discount. June, who was having the morning of her life, nodded far too quickly. Absolutely. Iris folded her arms. You are impossible. Claire stepped closer and said quietly, only for her, I'm supporting my wife's business. I thought that was one of the attributes of marriage. Iris stared at her. That line had no business being that effective. None. I hate when you say wife like that, Iris said. Claire's brow lifted. Like what? Like you enjoy it. Claire held her gaze. Then, very softly, I do. That was the moment June developed the expression of a woman mentally buying popcorn. The afternoon slid by in a way Iris had not expected. Claire stayed. Not hovering. Not taking over. Just there. She answered one more call in the office with the door half closed, her tone calm, concise, and so decisively competent Iris nearly hated listening to it. She did not bark. Did not posture. She asked sharp questions, listened to answers, ended the call in under 4 minutes, and came back out carrying herself exactly the same as before, as if running large parts of the world from a borrowed gallery chair was not unusual. At one point Iris caught herself watching Claire read an exhibition statement. Claire looked up and caught her catching herself. Iris immediately pretended to rearrange postcards. Smooth, Claire said. Shut up. By 3, June had recovered enough to go from alarmed to rude. She cornered Iris near the back wall while Claire stepped outside to take another call. Okay, June whispered. Objectively, she's terrifying. Iris adjusted a frame that did not need adjusting. She's not terrifying. She's not. No. June stared. Iris. She bought a piece without asking the price. That's called being solvent. That's called being from another planet. Iris tried not to smile and failed slightly. June saw that immediately. Oh no, June said. Iris looked at her. What? Oh no. You like her. I do not. You do. I find her. Iris searched for a word and chose the wrong one. Interesting. June made a face of profound pity. That's rich people poison. You're done. I am not done. You're wearing her shirt. Iris looked down in betrayal. June pointed to the ring. And her ring. She's also wearing mine. June blinked once. That's actually weirdly romantic. Iris groaned. Stop helping. When Claire came back in, June took one look at Iris's face and very wisely retreated to the desk. Claire approached with a paper cup in each hand. She handed one to Iris. Iris took it automatically. What's this? Tea. I didn't ask for tea. You looked like you needed tea. Iris stared at the cup. Then at Claire. Then, against all self-respect, took a sip. Perfect. Again. Iris narrowed her eyes. This is getting sinister. Claire glanced toward the desk where June was pretending not to listen. I have many talents. I don't like that sentence from you either. Claire smiled. Noted. By 5, they left together. Again, that should have been strange. Again, it wasn't. Outside, the air had sharpened into evening. Claire took Iris's overnight bag without asking, slung it into the back seat, then opened the passenger door with the kind of old-school courtesy that would have been ridiculous from almost anyone else. Iris paused beside the car. Claire looked at her from across the roof. What? That. What? The door. Claire blinked. I opened it. Yes. I noticed. Would you prefer I stop? Iris looked at her for a long second, then got in. Claire shut the door with a faint smile. In the car, the city turned gold at the edges, office windows catching the sunset, traffic lights reflecting in the windshield. Iris rested her elbow on the door and watched people crossing at the corners. After a while, she said, You really bought that piece. Claire kept her eyes on the road. Yes. You didn't have to. I know. Iris turned to look at her. Then why did you? Claire was quiet for 2 beats. Then said, Because it was good. Because your eye is good. Because I'm not going to stand in the room where you built something with your own hands and pretend not to see it. That shut Iris up completely. Claire glanced at her then, just briefly. You're not the only one allowed to be sincere occasionally. Iris looked away first. Again. This was becoming a pattern she deeply resented. Back at the apartment, evening settled around them in warm light and quiet. No friends. No witnesses. No tequila. No chapel. Just the reality they had somehow dragged home with them. Claire hung her keys in the entryway. Iris set down her bag and stood in the middle of the living room like a woman arriving at the scene of a tasteful crime. So she said. So Claire agreed. What do married people do at 6:30 when they've known each other for less than 24 hours? Claire took off her watch. Depends on the marriage. That's not helpful. Claire considered. We could order dinner. Normal. We could argue. Already covered. We could divide closet territory with unnecessary aggression. Tempting. Claire walked toward the kitchen. Or we could eat, talk, and attempt not to make this more ridiculous than it already is. Iris followed. You keep saying that like you weren't the one who proposed marriage over pool. Claire glanced over her shoulder. You keep saying that like you didn't accept. Fair. Iris hated fair. Dinner turned into takeout from a place downstairs that delivered in white paper bags and smelled better than it had any right to. Claire changed into a dark knit top and softer trousers. Iris kept the white shirt on and rolled the sleeves higher. They ate at the long table by the windows, city lights opening below them like a second sky. At first they did what strangers do when they're trying not to sound like strangers. Basic questions. Where did you grow up? How long have you had the gallery? What do you do when you're not marrying women in bars? Claire grew up in Connecticut and never said it apologetically. Iris grew up in a house where everyone talked over one another and no one believed in indoor voices. Claire had worked for her family's investment group and then split off to run part of her own portfolio and advisory arm because she preferred making decisions without a committee of relatives pretending concern was strategy. You have a family empire, Iris said, leaning back in her chair. Claire took a sip of water. That is an extremely dramatic phrase. It's accurate. It's inconveniently accurate. Iris pointed at her with a chopstick. See? There it is. You're not cold. You're just professionally composed. Claire's mouth curved. Is that your official diagnosis? Yes. Should I be concerned? Deeply. Claire laughed under her breath, then set her glass down. And you? What about me? Why a gallery, really? Iris looked down at her plate for a second. The honest answer came before she could stop it. Because art was the only place people ever told the truth without pretending they were. Claire went still. Not stiff. Just attentive. Iris felt it immediately and nearly rolled her eyes at herself. Great. Now she was sincere too. She made a face and looked up. That sounded more poetic than I intended. I know what you meant. Do you? Yes. The conversation slowed after that and changed shape. Less sparring now. More watching. More choosing what to say and what not to. At one point Claire stood to clear the table, and Iris stood too automatically. Their hands collided reaching for the same carton. Claire's fingers slid over Iris's knuckles. Neither moved. The kitchen was quiet except for the distant hum of the city beyond the glass. You're doing it again, Iris said. Claire's gaze dropped to their hands. Doing what? Looking like you know exactly how much this affects me. Claire slowly lifted her eyes back to Iris's face. I don't know exactly, she said. That was almost worse. Iris swallowed. Claire did not let go immediately. Also worse. Then, very gently, she took the carton from Iris's hand and set it aside. You should unpack, Claire said, voice lower now. Before you pretend you're leaving again. Iris lifted a brow. You make everything sound like a challenge. Claire's mouth softened. Maybe you hear everything that way. That followed Iris into the closet. She told herself she was only putting things away because living out of a bag in Claire's apartment would feel like losing. That was all. Nothing emotional about placing her sweater in the drawer Claire had cleared. Nothing emotional about hanging her coat beside Claire's. Nothing emotional about the visual shock of her things beside Claire's things, as if the apartment itself had accepted something her brain was still arguing with. When Iris stepped back into the bedroom, Claire was by the windows, jacket off, sleeves loose, city light catching at the edge of her hair. She had taken down her hair clip. The shoulder-length brown waves sat softer now, less polished, somehow more dangerous. Claire turned at the sound of her footsteps. Iris stopped. The room changed. There was no other word for it. No audience now. No excuses. No noise to hide behind. Just them. And the memory of the morning. And the memory of the almost night before. Claire's gaze moved over her slowly. White shirt, bare legs below the hem, slightly mussed dark blonde curls, rings still gleaming in the low light. You kept the shirt on, Claire said quietly. Iris crossed her arms. You're observant. Claire's eyes lifted to her face again. I'm motivated. The heat that moved through Iris at that should have been illegal. She took one step closer. Then another. About this morning, Iris said, voice low. You don't get to keep weaponizing that video forever. Claire tilted her head. I'm not weaponizing it. No. I'm preserving evidence of your terrible judgment. Iris laughed once. Claire's eyes warmed. There it was again. That dangerous, infuriating little burst of pleasure Claire seemed to get every time she made Iris laugh. Iris reached up before she could overthink it and smoothed 2 fingers over the collar of Claire's top. Claire went very still. You like when I laugh, Iris said softly. Yes. Direct. Immediate. No flinch. Iris's pulse kicked hard. And you like saying yes to me, Claire added. That is a disgusting amount of confidence. And yet, Iris was already too close. She knew it. Claire knew it. The city seemed impossibly far away. Iris slid her hand higher, fingertips brushing the warm line of Claire's neck. Claire's breath changed. Not much, but enough. Enough for Iris to feel suddenly, wildly pleased with herself. Still think I'm loud? Iris murmured. Claire's gaze dropped briefly to her mouth. Only when you're winning. And when I'm not? Claire's hand rose slowly to Iris's waist. When you're dangerous. That did it. Iris kissed her. Not with tequila this time. Not with adrenaline and chapel lights and the reckless high of having an audience. This kiss was sober enough to matter. Warm at first. Testing. Then deeper the second Claire pulled her in. There it was again. That precision of Claire's. The controlled way she held the moment until Iris leaned in harder and made it impossible to keep anything measured. Claire backed her one step. Then another. Until Iris's hip met the edge of the dresser and Claire was standing between her knees, one hand at her waist, the other sliding up to cradle the side of her face with maddening care. Iris broke the kiss just enough to breathe. That, she whispered, was not at all how I expected my Saturday to go. Claire's mouth brushed hers once more. You say that like Saturday is over. Iris laughed softly against her lips. Claire kissed the laugh out of her again. This time slower. Longer. No rush. No drunken imbalance. No collapsing into sleep. Just the two of them learning the difference between chemistry and choice. Iris's fingers slid into Claire's shoulder-length hair and ruined whatever polished order was left of it. Claire made a low, please sound and pressed closer. Not enough to overwhelm. Just enough to make a point. Which Claire apparently loved doing. Iris turned her face, kissed the corner of Claire's mouth, her jaw, the line just below her ear, and felt Claire's breath catch for real. Interesting, Iris murmured. Claire, eyes half-lidded now, managed, don't get smug. Iris smiled against her skin. I'm not smug. You're doing the artistic version of smug. That's not a thing. It is tonight. Iris laughed again, and there was no recovering from that because Claire kissed her harder after, one hand firm at the small of her back now, the other sliding down, then up again, a measured kind of possession that made Iris's knees feel unreliable. Somewhere between one kiss and the next, the bedroom door remained open, and the whole apartment seemed to breathe around them. Iris pulled back only enough to look at her. Claire looked back. Not distant. Not cool. Not untouchable. Just present. Warm with restraint. A woman who liked control and was feeling it shift under her hands. Tell me something true, Iris whispered. Claire did not ask why. She simply answered. I haven't stopped thinking about that moment in the chapel when you said you don't quit just because something scares you. Iris's breath caught. Claire's thumb traced once along her jaw. And? Iris asked. And Claire said quietly, I believed you. That hit somewhere so deep Iris had no defense prepared, which, perhaps for the first time in 24 hours, left her silent. Claire watched her for one heartbeat more, then kissed her forehead with unbearable gentleness. It was almost too much. Almost. Iris slid her hands down to Claire's shoulders and held there. That was rude. Claire's mouth softened. Probably. No, seriously. Iris looked up at her, half amused, half something more fragile. You can't say things like that and then act composed. Claire leaned in, close enough that Iris felt the answer before she heard it. I'm not nearly as composed as I look. A shiver went through Iris. Oh, she said. Claire smiled faintly. Yes. And then, because apparently neither of them had learned moderation yet, Claire kissed her again. By the time they stopped, Iris's curls were a mess. Claire's hair was thoroughly ruined. The white shirt hung more loosely from one shoulder, and the room had blurred at the edges for entirely different reasons than the night before. Iris was still catching her breath when Claire's phone lit up on the dresser. Once. Twice. 3 times. Neither moved at first. Then Claire glanced sideways, read the name on the screen, and the warmth in her expression cooled into something sharper. Not cold. Controlled. Iris noticed immediately. That looks ominous. Claire exhaled once through her nose. It's my mother. Iris stared. Now. Claire let the call ring out. Then the phone lit up again with a message. Claire read it. Iris watched her face change by a degree. Enough. What? Iris asked. Claire set the phone face down on the dresser for 1 full second, as if deciding whether to protect the mood or tell the truth. Then she looked at Iris and said, Apparently my family found out. Iris blinked. How? Claire's mouth curved without humor. There are very few events in my life my mother cannot discover through sheer force of entitlement. That is the most frightening sentence you've said so far. Claire almost smiled. Almost. Then she picked up the phone and handed it to Iris. The message was concise. Tomorrow. 1 o'clock. Lunch. Bring your wife. You've embarrassed us enough for 1 weekend. Mother. Iris looked up slowly. Claire was watching her. Well, Iris said after a beat. That's hostile. Claire folded her arms. She's upset I got married without telling them. You think. Claire ignored that. You don't have to come if you don't want to. Iris stared at her. Then at the phone. Then back at Claire. You just told me not to disappear for 3 days out of spite. Yes. And now you're offering me an escape route? Claire's gaze held hers. I'm offering you a choice. Iris looked at her for a long second. Then handed the phone back. No, she said. Claire's brows lifted slightly. No. I'm coming. Claire searched her face, perhaps checking for sarcasm. Iris lifted her chin. You said we'd do ridiculous properly, remember? Something hot and bright flashed in Claire's eyes. Not triumph. Not exactly. Recognition. Careful, Claire said softly. I might start believing you're serious. Iris stepped closer again, just enough to make the answer land where she wanted it to. Claire, she murmured, one hand sliding to the front of Claire's top. I married you in a chapel at 2 in the morning and moved into your apartment before lunch. She looked up at her. What part of this feels unserious to you? Claire actually laughed then, quiet, helpless for a second, beautiful in a way that made the room tilt all over again. Then she touched Iris's waist once more and said, with maddening calm, Tomorrow at 1, you meet my parents. Iris let out a breath. Great, she said. I'd honestly rather play you for the car again. Claire's smile deepened. Yes, she said. I thought you might. Iris looked at her for 1 long second, then muttered, If your mother calls me a phase, I'm stealing something expensive on the way out. Claire's mouth twitched. Please don't threaten felonies before dessert. No promises. And somehow standing there in Claire Donovan's bedroom with rumpled hair, swollen lips, and a lunch with her new wife's furious family waiting for them the next day, Iris realized something deeply inconvenient. She wasn't thinking about escape. She was thinking about what to wear. And that, frankly, was far more dangerous. Because tomorrow wasn't just lunch. Tomorrow was war. And if you think Claire Donovan's family is going to make this marriage easy, you have not met rich people with wounded pride. So if you want part 3, the family lunch, the judgment, the sharp smiles, the first real test of this impossible marriage, and maybe the moment Claire decides exactly how far she'll go to defend her wife, subscribe, like, and stay with me. Because Claire and Iris are only getting started.